God, I love that kid. His story is unbelievable. Stephen A., don't look now, but UConn favored to repeat as national champs in 2024, according to Caesars Sportsbook. They're plus 1,200 to win the title and hope to become the first team to repeat as national champs since Florida did it in 06-07. Coach Seth Greenberg is with us. And, Coach, let me just say one thing. We plan on being dominant for a long time because Dan Hurley just signed an extension. And what's unbelievable, Stephen A., is, as you know, I just celebrated a birthday Friday, so this feels like a birthday present. Which one's my camera here? Feels like a birthday present that UConn won. And what's even more unbelievable is Hurley is now extended through March 31st, 2029, my birthday again. So it's just really a special day.
Oh, since you're going to do all of that, you're going to tell everybody how old you are? No, you're not. Thank
Me?
you. That's it. Of course not. You don't need to
Oh,
tell.
you
I'm
know.
just joking. You don't ask a lady how old she is. I know the rules. I was just messing with you.
Stephen, hey, I'm 29 again.
Yes.
Coach, do you think, seriously, though, I'll stop being a homer now, is UConn poised to repeat?
They're one of those schools that can repeat. There's no doubt about it. And you say, well, they can repeat. Obviously, they won this season. But, yeah, they're poised because they got a top 5 recruiting class, and they're going to have a good portion of these guys return. I think Andre Jackson's going to return. I think they got, obviously, Klingon is going to return, who's going to be maybe the most dominant center in college basketball next year. Alex Caravan is going to return. So they're going to have championship pedigree. But the most important reason I say this is because of who they are and how they do what they do. Dan Hurley has reestablished the standard of what is Connecticut basketball. And he is unrelenting in holding his team to that standard each and every day. He's unrelenting in holding his staff to that standard each and every day. If you go and watch them practice, what they do and how they do it on a daily basis, he's not afraid to coach his guys hard because he has this incredible relationship off the court because he cares about them and spends so much time with them. So look, you've got a great university, you've got great facilities, you've got tremendous tradition, and you've got a guy that has a vision and he is not satisfied. And I said this earlier today, and it's kind of extreme. He's got a little bit of Nick Saban in him. He doesn't have all those championships, but in terms of his single-mindedness and his focus, his attention to detail, his ability to push and challenge players, yet have them respond,
Nick Saban
is second to none.
Well, first of all, I think
that.
you're stepping out there just a touch, Coach. I really, really do. I mean, he is the reigning defending national champion.
I didn't say he was. I said like.
Let me say this to you. Well, there's a lot of coaches that are like that in terms of personality, but in terms of how it resonates with the kids, that's a different matter. And in Hurley's case, it clearly resonates with those kids. And it was great seeing Bobby Hurley Sr. in attendance. I mean, you're seeing Dad there, seeing his big brother there. Listen, his brother's a 2-time national champion, one of the great college point guards in history, which Dan Hurley came on the show and made sure to echo to us a couple of weeks ago, right when the tournament was beginning. Much respect and props to him and to UConn. I was kind of depressed watching this game only from this standpoint. When it comes to a championship game, I like competition. And I give San Diego State a lot of props for coming back when they were down. But you just saw, when you know basketball, Coach, you know this. When they went on their run after they were down 10-6, and they went on their run, and they held them without a field goal for 11 minutes and 14 straight shots, you're just looking at San Diego State. You're like, too small. You don't have.
You know what, Stephen A., I want to apologize to you because I do feel bad that we're just so good and so much better than everyone else.
But I'm just saying you should.
Apologize. We just ran through
I will tell
everyone.
you this. I will tell you this. When you think about the big top, there's certain times with the mid levels and all of that stuff. You just look at certain programs. You look at a game. You look at San Diego State. They got talent. There's no doubt about that. But when you looked at Sonogo, when you looked at these brothers and the size and Klingon, like you just brought them up, I'm like, it's like trees. It's like you got to make shots. You hit your first two, 3-pointers of the game. And like, okay, that's what they're going to need to do in order to pull off the victory. And you just didn't see that happen. But to answer the question, is UConn poised to repeat? I'm here to tell you that the answer is yes. Because the reality is that when you think about, like you said, how they play, they're going to play big boy basketball. You're going to get solid guard play because Hurley is going to demand it. You don't want somebody who's turnover prone. You certainly don't want people that can't handle the rock, okay? But when you're willing to play big boy basketball, we're going to throw the ball inside. We're going to attack you from the interior. We're going to rebound. We're going to get out on three-point shooters. We're going to defend and force you into congestion in the paint where we've got trees waiting for you. it is tough to overcome. And in order to do that, you've got to have somebody incredibly special and elite who can offset that or answer with big boys of your own. Certainly it can happen in college basketball. These are kids we're talking about, but at the end, it's one and done as opposed to a best 4-7. But in the end, when you look at UConn, the way that they're built, Coach, I can't deny it. I definitely think they're destined. They should be the favorites to repeat. They really, really should.
Yeah, and you know, and we talk about the dominance, Molly, of this game, but every time they've been pushed, because hey, San Diego State cut it to 5, all right? And Miami cut it to 7 in the second half. And what happened? All right, they always respond. All of a sudden, Jordan Hawkins comes off that little pitch back, boom, knocks down that 3, 5 goes to 8, and then they finish the game off. And to me, if you see how they play, Stephen, and you did a great job of explaining who kind of their identity of what they do and the physicality and how they do it. But they also play different offensively. They don't just run ball screen offense. I mean, the ball is moving, people are moving, guys are cutting, coming out of timeouts. They're getting the ball exactly where they want it to, who they want it. Like, their preparation is next level. Their execution is next level. And their recruiting now, especially since they won this national championship, is going to be next level. They've got everything in place to maintain a level of excellence, including a guy that can flat out coach in Danny Hurley.
Yeah, absolutely. Just for me, it matters how many guys we end up losing, because 3 top 100 players potentially to go into the draft. How many programs would you say are better than UConn in college basketball?
I don't say programs are better. I think they're on a certain level. So when I think of the bluest of bloods in college basketball today, all right, certain schools just have separated themselves. You know, you've got Connecticut, you've got Duke, you've got North Carolina as bluest of bloods, you've got Kansas, you've got UCLA. All right?
Agreed.
That's it.
That's it.
That's the blue bloods of college basketball today. And they've entered that community. And I keep on saying, I mean, since 99, they got 5. Duke's got 3. Carolina's got 3. Kentucky's only got 1. Kansas got 2. That's what it is, especially for this generation of basketball fan.
Well, Coach, look at it this way. That's one way to look at it. I'll tell you something else to really, really validate UConn. You talk about North Carolina, it's Dean Smith, it's Roy Williams. You talk about Duke, it's Mike Krzyzewski. You talk about Kansas, even though Roy Williams was there, he never won a championship there. He won it at North Carolina, but Bill Self delivered the goods on the national championship. So you look at it, obviously Calipari at Kentucky, but there's only one title on his watch. Obviously Pitino got 1, Tubbs got 1, okay? So we get all of that. We understand that. When you look at UConn, Jim Calhoun, Kevin Ollie, and now Hurley. 3 different coaches delivered you a national title. You know what? Yeah. That says a lot about the university. It says a lot about the program. Because when you have 3 different coaches that can come to the same place and ultimately deliver the goods, not taking anything away from their greatness, but it says something about UConn when you can have 3 different coaches deliver you a title.
For sure. And I just can't wait. And I hope J.J. Redick and Jay Williams, I just want to say to J.J. Redick and Jay Williams, now we've tied Duke with 5, so I can't wait till we pass them, which will happen in the few coming years. But, I wanted to bring that up to Stephen A., too, like what this does now for the Big East in terms of just Big East basketball. Stephen A., you grew up with Big East basketball being back.
For me, Coach, I'm going to tell you something. It's a beautiful thing. Because the Big East meant so much to me back in the 80s. When I think about St. John's, Lou Conasecker, I think about Syracuse with Boeheim. I think about Georgetown, obviously, with the late, great John Thompson, God rest his soul. I think about, UConn as well, Villanova with Jay Wright, Raleigh Massimino when they won the title in '85. You get all of this. You see all of this stuff, man. And for me, it's changed when you see some of these teams, the Marquettes, the Creightons of the world, and the Big East. You're like, I'm not accustomed to that. I can't. It's hard for me to relate. But when the reigning defending national champions come from that conference, it does harken you back to some of the best times in the history of college basketball. And Coach, educate some folks, because back then, Big East basketball, college basketball was it. Because the Big East was that special. It wasn't the ACC at that time. They were on the come up. It was the Big East.
No, I mean, like, Stephen A., you're right on the money. And the Big East is back. I mean, Rick back at St. John's. Obviously, Shaka Smart's going to do a monster job. Or is doing a monster job at Marquette. You see what's happening at UConn. Ed Cooley going to Georgetown is going to be a renaissance of that program. I mean, the top of the Big East is as good as any. But back in the day, I mean, come on now. You're kidding me. You're talking about, I mean, think about the guys that played in the Big East back in the day. You're talking about Mullen. You're talking about, hey, like, Pearl Washington. Give me a break. I mean, games weren't games, they were events.
The greatest show in the history of college basketball. Ewing,
it was Mullen, it was Pearl. I mean, the game, it was next level. And right now, the Big East is poised. And I really believe this. The Big East is poised with the coaches that they've moved around in the league and the players they have returning in the league and the program builders they have in the league. We're talking about the best leagues in college basketball. A basketball league is what the Big East is, and it is going to be as good or the best league in college basketball for the next few years.
Very last question, Coach. Just a yes or no here. Could you please confirm for our audience what I've said? Even with the great I'm talking about Michael Jordan, Kenny Anderson, Mark Price, Chris Jackson before he became Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, and had Shaq and Stanley Roberts, UNLV and all that stuff. I have religiously said Dwayne Pearl Washington was the greatest show in the history of college basketball. Am I lying?
I cannot argue with you there. I'll tell you what, I used to go watch him play in high school when they played their games at LIU. The line out the door to watch Pearl play, all right, if he had a 7 o'clock game, all right, that line out the door started at about 9:30.
Absolutely.
And people sat out in the winter cold just to get in to see Pearl's deal. And he would do stuff like beat you, pull it back, and then beat you again.
Yes.
I mean,
on purpose.
He was absolutely, as you would say, scintillating.
Yeah.
Yes.
Huge congrats.
Special.
Huge congrats to UConn. We're back, baby. We'll get into it a little more later. Coach, I know you got to catch a flight. Thanks, appreciate you being with us. This has been a lot of fun, and great job last night, and always.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Enjoy.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.